I'm Max, joined by Bobby, and we're here to talk about the biggest games of the weekend, which I'm telling you was very, very easy to pick this week because we got some really, really good games to talk about. And you know what? I'm not even gonna really mess around here, man. We got a lot to talk about, not only about this week, Bobby, but we got to talk about next week. Sorry, we got to talk about last week. Last week was crazy, upsets galore in college football. Which one? Well, let's recap for a bit for folks who have been under the proverbial rock. Right, USC got upset by Minnesota in Minneapolis. Alabama lost to Vanderbilt in Nashville. Tennessee was upset by Arkansas. Michigan was upset by Washington. Missouri was actually Missouri wasn't even an upset because A&M was favored, but Missouri was just a higher ranked team, so that was like kind of an upset, kind of not. But let's focus on USC, Bama, Tennessee, and Michigan. Bobby, which upset was the most consequential to the team that was on the receiving end of said upset?
Well, first off, I gotta say, last week we said it was going to be, a bit of a boring week, nothing much to see. Well, this is college football, and usually the weeks where nothing you expect, that's where everything goes just completely crazy. Um, well, so in terms of the team whose loss is most consequential, it obviously impacts all of them. But the team that I feel like had their hopes dented more than any, my opinion, it's Tennessee. Just given the fact that you still have Alabama on your schedule, you still have Georgia on your schedule. Um, they have some tough road, or they have some tough games ahead, and I feel like you could get away with going 1-1 in those and get into the playoff, but it just dropping a game to Arkansas that you really didn't expect to lose is just a backbreaker.
Yeah, Tennessee was sort of on like a good trajectory. They're playing well. Nico looks great. Arkansas can be frisky though. Like, you know, it was definitely a shock, but not the worst. Not like the most like, oh my god, like how the heck did that happen? Shock. I mean, if we, I think we would both agree the most shocking upset of the weekend was Vanderbilt. Obviously beating Alabama. That was the most shocking, but the most consequential to me, Bobby, has to be the Trojans losing to Minnesota. Because you already were kind of like on thin ice because you're playing now in a conference that is very tough in the Big Ten, and you've already have a conference loss to a supposed contender. Maybe not anymore because they were upset, by Washington. But you've already lost that game, and you have a tough schedule moving forward. And now you have lost a game that you are definitely not supposed to lose. And I think the hard part of it is it brings into question, how good of a team the Trojans even are, like to begin with, because like there's no really impressive win. It depends on how you feel about LSU. Um, you know, they and now you're, uh, and now the losses. There's no there's the margin for error is just like not there anymore. Um, so I think in terms of like consequence, like this is really bad for USC, and now they have to host a Penn State team that has big expectations for themselves, which is what we're going to discuss in a second here. But yeah, it's got to be USC for me.
And I feel like we got to, yeah, Alabama losing this one, I feel like is one of those things that maybe it doesn't have the most consequences, but it's the most telling that Kalen DeBoer still has a lot of work to do and may have bitten off more than he can chew. He is immediately on the hot seat. Any goodwill he earned after that Georgia win is completely gone. These folks are out here just tearing him apart, down to the point that they're calling him a slob because he wore a T-shirt on the sideline instead of a polo. So, like, this man is getting completely destroyed. So, long-term effects. That Alabama Vanderbilt loss feels like the most significant by far, and could be the beginning. I don't want to say the beginning of the end for Kalen DeBoer, but the urgency to turn things around has to be just cranked up to 11.
Yeah, I think it also just goes to show like the expectations that have been set by Nick Saban are so lofty, and you have to also just appreciate like Nick Saban never lost games like that. And it's one thing to just, when I say games like that, I don't mean just Vanderbilt. I mean, Nick Saban Nick Saban teams never fell victim to, we just got a big win against a rival and we're going to have a letdown the next week, no matter who it was. And to do that against Vanderbilt, it just goes to show like the week before we were saying, wow, like, Kalen DeBoer turning the page from, the old coach. It doesn't seem like in college sports there's really a big drop off. Saying like it doesn't seem like it. They just beat Georgia. Things seem to be going fine. And then you have a game like this, and it's like, okay, yeah, there it is. That's the difference. That's why Nick Saban's the GOAT. Like that. That's the difference. I mean, it seems like the smallest thing, but it makes the biggest difference. So, yeah, Alabama fans are gonna be going through it.
Yep, no doubt.
All right, so let's get into the biggest games this week. We have no shortage of them, so we're going to start right away with Penn State, favored by 4.5 to go to Los Angeles and play the Trojans. Coming off that loss to Minnesota, over under is 15.5. That kicks at 3:30 Eastern time. I want to start with this. James Franklin. The book on James Franklin at Penn State has sort of been like, he wins, he beats teams they're supposed to. They usually get wins. They usually get wins when they are supposed to get them over inferior opponents. But when it's a game against a opponent that they are matched with evenly, or maybe the other team could be a little bit better, we don't know, Penn State seems to lose those games. And what I don't like to see is at press availability, James Franklin complaining about the 1-hour bus ride they have to take to get to the Harrisburg airport to fly to LA, because that tells me he's already making excuses about the travel at this, realignment, which on one hand I understand, but I think it's the wrong messenger. When you have a reputation for not showing up in these types of games or having a letdown, like I don't want to hear your excuses, James Franklin. I just need you to eat your vegetables, go into the Coliseum and handle your business. Like, no excuses.
Like, here's the thing I don't get. They've flown to games before. Like, this is new for Penn State. They've used airplanes. I know they're old school, their uniforms and stuff, but I didn't think they were out here, bussing around everywhere. It's not like the Big Ten, even before the Western expansion, was all that like regional. So very weird. I don't like the vibes. I'm exactly with you. This already feels like, what are we doing here, man? Like, come on.
Yeah, it's not good. And Bobby, you kind of knew where I was leaning in this game before we recorded this, but like even now, I'm just like, okay, yeah, this gives me some reassurance, because I don't like the messaging there from the coach. But before we kind of get into like who we think is going to win the game, I just want to talk about real quick like what this sort of means in the grand scheme of things because like we said before, I do think USC is really now in a bad spot because they lost it. They took it to the hands of Minnesota. Penn State is in an interesting spot because they're undefeated so far. This is a tough game that they're going to have to get over, and then everything seemingly is right in front of them if they have aspirations of getting to the Big Ten championship and winning, something that they really haven't been able to do during these years of dominance between. Oh, you're good. Yeah, you're good. You're good. Yeah, gonna let Bobby handle that business, but yeah, James Franklin, folks. Um, these years of dominance between um, Michigan and Ohio State had it just seems like Penn State, excuse me, has not been able to break through. This is their chance. They got Ohio State at home. They got a favorable schedule, but they got to take care of business here against USC. Um, Bobby, I want, or when Bobby gets back. Sorry, y'all. Technical difficulties. We're still rolling though. But the thing that I wonder about this game in particular is um, what are the conversations going to be? What are the narratives going to be? What's going to happen if Penn State can't pull this game out? What does it look like? Because this seems like as good as Ohio State is, as good as Oregon is, as good as some of these teams in the Big Ten are, this sort of seems like this is Penn State's year before, while Michigan is kind of in a retooling, rebuild, whatever you want to call it, while USC seems to be struggling to find their footing, Washington, teams like that, like Penn State's got to have this one, right, Bobby?
Oh, I mean, no doubt, no doubt. And I mean, it really is like the best opportunity given, Drew Aller, Nick Singleton, everything they have going on right now. It just feels prime that they have to figure this out now. So it's definitely one of those situations where they got to take advantage, especially when USC is down, especially when the schedule aligns like this. You got to strike while the iron's hot. You don't even have to beat Ohio State to make the playoff. You just have to take care of business. And in my opinion, they're the better team here. Take care of business at LA.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to take care of business. Um, for me, I'll just jump into predictions. I think USC is going to win the game. The comments by James Franklin pushed me further in that direction. The reason I'm taking USC has nothing to do with their talent. I think they have good players. I think Lincoln Riley is struggling with this offense, and it's alarming. It's concerning. We talked about Zachariah Branch. We talked about some inconsistencies sometimes with Miller Moss. Um, I think this from a like talent side, Penn State favors is the favorite to me, but I think the moment the not I'm sorry not momentum. I think the mentality from a mentality standpoint of we got to have this. We're at home. This is our season, and that mentality versus Penn State, who feels good about being 5-0, feels comfortable, talented team, but we know Drew Aller having a good season, but we know he's had his struggles in the past. Um, a coach who's prone to lose these games. Like I can't really give you an X's and O's argument as to why I think USC is going to win this game. I think it's everything else. I think everything else is the reason why they could win this game and why I'm picking them to win this game. Um, so that's my prediction for it.
It's an absolute got to have it for USC. I fully agree with you there. I just think Penn State's a better team, and USC's biggest weakness defensively has been the running game in terms of stopping good running backs. And Nick Singleton, if he's healthy, if he's ready to go, I think he turns this game on its head. And I got Penn State here. I think it's a big game, but an attainable get big game. So I'm gonna go with Penn State to pull it out.
Yeah, listen, I mean, this is absolutely attainable. Like, I don't, I think this is like obviously not even the biggest game on Penn State's schedule. Um, Again, I worry about everything else, but I think Penn State's the better team. It's the team they should win. I think 4.5 is a justifiable spread in this game. Um, Interested to see like what the scoring looks like because both of these defenses are pretty good. I think it's just going to come down to which quarterback plays the best, plays the most mistake-free football. Drew Aller has played really well this year. He's played better than Miller Moss, I think. um, but yeah, this is definitely going to be a tough game. Um, and we're obviously super excited to watch. But let's keep it rolling here. Saturday, 10:15 Eastern, the late game. We got Kansas State, number 18, facing off at Colorado. This is not just a Deion Sanders stimulus package conversation, folks. The Colorado Buffaloes are a good team so far, excuse me, based on their record. They sit now at 4-1. They're hosting Kansas State in a Big 12 matchup. That should be a fun one. Kansas State's favored by 4.5. Over under is 56.5. Can Colorado pull off the upset, Bobby?
I actually think they have the ability to. I really do. Shadur Sanders has been absolutely incredible. I feel like he's kind of going under the radar, shockingly enough, mainly because Travis Hunter's been good. And people like to kind of hand wave successes Colorado have. I know I've been there before, but if you look at what he's done, it's been really good. They've improved at stopping the run. There are aspects of this Colorado team you really can like. And look, last time we saw this K-State team on the road, they got blown out by BYU. Colorado, people I think sleep on that environment. It's pretty crazy. It was crazy before Deion. I'll put it that way. They were nuts. They were intense. So that doesn't change. It's an old Big Eight rivalry. First time we're getting that in a while. So I think there'll be some added spice there. Um, I don't know. I think there is a path to victory there for Colorado, especially if that offense is hitting. You can turn over Avery Johnson some. Um, will it happen? I don't know, but I think Colorado realistically can win this game.
Credit to them. They've had some good games. I think we've also seen Colorado get lucky, which sometimes, like, you don't have to be good. You just have to be lucky in some situations. And so in a game like this, like, I think this is one of those where if they get a lucky bounce, if they get a turnover, if Travis Hunter makes a play, if Kansas State just cannot handle that environment, um, which is all totally on the table, like, I think that could spell for a Colorado upset. I think both of these teams are just looking at the numbers. I think both of these teams are maybe around the same offensively. I think defensively, Kansas State is just like way better, which you know probably makes the difference here. It's probably the reason why they're favored. Um, the bets here are pretty interesting. On DraftKings, most people are betting Kansas State to cover. 84% of bettors having Kansas State cover. 86% of bettors have Kansas State winning the game. But the most interesting number to me, Bobby, is 97% of bets for the over. for the over, which is a line of 56.5. People think this is going to be a high scoring game. What do you think?
I think it has the ability to. Avery Johnson and DJ Giddens can really put up some numbers. I think that K-State offense is pretty good. Obviously, Colorado's is good. I'm not. I don't share the full enthusiasm that it will be an over because I think when Colorado runs against tougher defenses, they can kind of slow down a little bit. We saw that against Nebraska. Um, Nebraska's a different story, though. I think they're a lot tougher. So I think they can light up a scoreboard. I'm intrigued to see how this goes, though, because I think if K State is as good as I think they will slow them down. But we've also seen them get torched. So I know that's a real non-answer, but yeah, I think I'm gonna trend under because I feel like these games with their really tight strength on strength, can I don't know grind down a little bit more. But I don't know. I'm gonna trend under.
Okay. I mean, that's good. I mean, hey, fading the public is not bad and not a bad choice. Never really a bad choice to be honest with you. Um, so yeah, okay. Well, yeah, that should be interesting. I think the narratives, if Colorado wins this game, are going to be insane. I think because of what happened last year and because of the hype that Colorado's already gotten, I think people are a little bit slower this year to put the hype train behind Colorado. Um, but if they win this game, and this will be an absolutely a good win on their schedule, then I will not be surprised and I will understand if the hype train comes back to Boulder, after that, because that would be a legitimately good win against a ranked opponent. And then you look at the rest of their schedule and it's like, okay, like Colorado might have a path here to do something in the conference. So that should be something to watch out for sure. All right, let's go to our next game, Bobby. The next two games are the two biggest games of the weekend, but we're going to talk about Ohio State and Oregon first. This game is in Autzen. We've seen these two teams play each other a couple times in the last few years. Ohio State is the number 2 team in the country right now. They're favored by 3 over the number 3 team in the country, Oregon. Again, this game is at Oregon. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern kickoff time. This game will be played right at the same time as Colorado K-State. Over a total, it's 53.5. Two good teams, Big Ten, top of the Big Ten, top of the country. Huge stakes. We don't need to belabor the point. Tell me who you have winning the game and why. And how are they going to win?
Yeah, I mean, really, you can't say enough about how big of a game this is. I think this game, to me, comes down to the turnovers. Will Howard, notoriously turnover prone at Kansas State. Gabriel doesn't really turn it over through the air, but he's been known to fumble here and there. I think the turnovers, if you can turn Will Howard over, that's how you beat Ohio State. I think the Buckeyes are a better team across the board, though. You look at, outside of quarterback play, they have an incredible wide receiver stable. Quinshawn Judkins is an incredible running back as well. And then the defense, of course, is just legit. You and I have talked a lot about the Ducks this football season, and you can see the deficiencies. You can see the holes to point out. I believe they're like 1-4 against the spread. So they're not covering. They haven't looked like a championship level team. This is the challenge. This is a test they've been building up for. Autzen will be ready. It'll be bumping. I think this is going to be a narrow game. It's almost impossible to call. And in that case, I'm going to go with the better team. So I'm going to go Ohio State to pull it out in a tough environment. It kind of gives me like that Notre Dame vibe from last year, Ohio State Notre Dame, which was also a close game, but the Buckeyes just narrowly got it out. And I don't know, they just feel like a team that can win big on the road as long as it's not Michigan.
That was such an ugly game, the Notre Dame game, and like that was so frustrating too because like Notre Dame should have won that game, and that was just like so annoying that they didn't for so many reasons. But yeah, I got I really like Oregon to cover. I'm struggling with if they'll win or not. I think the reason I struggle with it is because Ohio State is so talented in so many places. Oregon's offensive line, to me, is still a question mark. But I just can't get over like some of these like performances where they've allowed. I mean, some of these games where they've allowed teams to just run the ball all over them. Like if they don't figure out how to stop the run on Saturday, Ohio State's gonna like Ohio State is going to be able to get up and down the field so easily. And to me, that's where I struggle picking Oregon straight up. But I think they can make it a close game because Oregon can also play. Um, Oregon can also play possession ball. Oregon and Dylan Gabriel in particular can sustain drives. Dylan Gabriel's super efficient. I think they can keep they can keep Ohio State at bay and play the time of possession game, keep the ball, and keep the game close. But winning, I think, is just going to come down to which quarterback can first of all take care of the football. Which one wrinkle and one crazy thing about Oregon this year is Dylan Gabriel has had 3 turnovers in the red zone, and you can't do that against Ohio State either. So for me, because I question how Oregon stops the run and shuts down some of the talent that Ohio State has, I struggle picking them to win. But do I think they can cover? They can keep it within 3 points at the end of the game? Sure. I think that's very feasible for the Ducks.
Yep. It just feels like a heartbreaking 1 point, 3 point loss, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And we love to talk about like the outlook after a game like this. Like, we talked about this before we recorded this, Bobby, but to me, I think the Ducks losing, if you look at the roads for these two teams, I don't think either of them are easy, but just browsing what the Ducks have left on their schedule versus what um, Ohio State has left on their schedule, to me, I think the Ducks have a slightly easier road to possibly get to Indianapolis. Even if they lose this game, they're going to play some tough teams like Illinois. And the game in Ann Arbor is not going to be easy by any means. But to me, the rest of their schedule is pretty easy moving forward compared to Ohio State, who I think they're going to be the better team, obviously, in all the games they play for the rest of the way. But you got to go at Penn State. And then you have Indiana, who's pretty good this year, and Michigan. Granted, it's at the shoe, but those are 2 tough games. So I'm giving the edge to Oregon to overcome this a little bit easier if Ohio State does win. And if Oregon wins, they might not lose again for the rest of the year. Like it might be looking, they might be, looking pretty good, going into Indianapolis. So this doesn't feel like a high stakes game to me, Bobby.
It feels high stakes in a way because you never know what pitfalls will, get you along the way. I feel like Oregon is more likely to get upset than Ohio State, but I feel like Oregon's schedule is significantly easier because going to the big house, it's fine. I think that's a pretty good environment, but Michigan itself isn't that great, and I would rather go at Michigan than at Penn State, which is a brutal spot, and I think that really is what boils it down to me. And then the rest of the games are whatever. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. That's all really all you can say at this point. But we'll see. Should be a really great game. I can't wait to watch this one. All right. Going back to the 3:30 slot. Sorry, Penn State USC. This is the game that we're going to be tuned into, and Bobby is actually going to be at. But Texas versus Oklahoma, Red River rivalry at the Cotton Bowl. Texas favored by a whopping 14 and a half or 15, depending on where you're looking. Texas back in their number one spot after Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. I would argue Texas should have never that number one slot should have never been taken from them because they were number one 2 weeks ago. They had a bye. Alabama beating Georgia to me did not dictate Alabama being number one over a Texas team that had shown they're the best team in the country. But now that is resolved with Alabama's loss to Vanderbilt. So Texas is number one. They'll face Oklahoma, who's number 18. The total is 50 and a half. Bobby, Sooner fan, my favorite Oklahoma Sooner fan, is Vegas spread of 14 and a half disrespectful?
I don't think it can be disrespected by Vegas because, they're analytical folk. They look at the, raw numbers. They look at the stats. They don't care about, the environment. I mean, they do a little bit, but they don't understand, the history. They don't take the feeling of watching like bad Texas teams keep it close or just other weirdness that goes on in the Cotton Bowl. They cannot compute that. They don't bake that into the formula, and that's fair. I understand that. I get it, Vegas. You're just trying to make it. You're trying to do it right. This is the largest on paper spread in this game since 2005. So like it's for Texas. So I get it. I understand. I'm not disrespected by it. I think it puts a chip on OU's shoulders for sure. I think they're disrespected. But no, I mean I think if you look at the numbers, if you just do team A versus team B and look at all of that, I can definitely see where it comes from. But it's OU Texas. It's different. I think I personally think it's too high. We'll get into that later. But no, I see where they're coming from on it.
All right, fair enough. Well, one thing that we can look at with this game is I think everyone knows that Oklahoma plays really good defense. We saw and how well they played against Tennessee. It was a high-powered offense. Texas also is good defensively, but I think they hang their hat on offense this year. They have a lot of flash, especially when Arch Manning is at quarterback. But we expect Quinn Ewers to play, and even with Quinn Ewers, they've been a really flashy offense to put up numbers. So, who has the edge in this game? Is it Texas's offense or Oklahoma's defense?
Would it be crazy if I said OU's defense? Because I get it. Like Texas's offense is really sharp. They did a really good job replacing, a lot of their outgoing wide receivers like Xavier Worthy and, A.D. Mitchell or Adonai Mitchell. And I get it. Like they are flashy. Isaiah Bond is incredible. But I just feel like they're a little one-dimensional. I know the running game has looked good, in terms of the numbers, but the backs haven't been that great. I think a lot of it's the O-line being really, really legit. And I think this defense, especially in an emotional, physical game, like the better defense, I think Texas' defense is great too, but I think defense wins out over offense usually. And I think, some of these, I believe some like 9 out of 11 defensive starters have played in an OU Texas game for OU. So they're a seasoned group. They get the moment. And if you look at Quinn Ewers in this game, even the 49-0 game, he can turn the ball over here and there. He's all right. And I think last year he turned the ball over 3 times and that kind of flipped the game. So I'm going to go use defense. I know that sounds a little nuts, but I think that's the unit that's better in this head-to-head matchup.
Yeah, I mean that's fair, and I think there's been a lot of instances in football, both pro and in college, where you have this really elite defense face this high powered offense, and the defense just is able to slow down the offense. I mean, we saw that against, like I said, Tennessee. Um, we've seen it in the NFL on a lot of occasions, um, but I don't think that's crazy to say. I think that the Texas offense, to where if we wanted to play devil's advocate and say the Texas offense has the edge, to me, it starts with the quarterback and the experience of Quinn Ewers. This is his third time playing in this game. If I'm not mistaken, it's his third time. So he's going to be familiar with the stage and the environment. He's not afraid of the moment. He knows what's at stake. He's experienced. And so the defense, I think, can do a lot. And maybe the talent is a mismatch. But I think when you have a veteran quarterback playing even against really good defenses, like that to me can be the difference and that can be the edge. So, um, so, and one more wrinkle I'll throw in there too. And I think this kind of goes into like, here's how Oklahoma can cover, or here's what they'll need to do to cover or and win is the complementary football aspect. They have to be able to do that. They have to be able to allow their defense to get rest and get off the field and sustain drives and play good on the offensive side of the ball. So I think that's another reason why I would lean Texas having the edge, simply because I'm not sure if Oklahoma's offense is going to allow the defense to not be on the field. You know what I'm saying, for the entire game, and that's an important key in this. Um, I'm not really taking, on the flip side, like Texas's defense. I'm not really taking their defensive like rankings and their stats like too much into consideration here because of the opponents that they've played. Like they have not played a good offense as of yet. Oklahoma's offense might be the best one they've
That's
faced
saying
yet.
something.
I'm not saying that.
Well,
That's saying a hell of a lot.
yeah, and I gotta say,
So,
like it could be a really bad offense if it looks like it has the past 5 games, and it's probably not a great offense. Your hope is that they find something to work with Michael Hawkins. You have some guys come back that you can just conjure up some sort of game plan to make it work in this game. I don't know if they will. I don't know if they can, but I like the idea that, there's been enough that has happened between now and then, between Tennessee and now, and hell, Auburn and now, that maybe you can make something work. The unknown feels like there's more of a mystery ceiling up here. Like I think the ceiling's higher than what we've seen already.
yeah, yeah. And I think, I mean, just real quick too, Bobby. Like, how confident are you in what the offense is going to be able to do? Because Michael Hawkins is, you know obviously brand new to this game and this environment and this stage. He's brand new to this game and this environment and this stage. Um, so how do you feel about like how the offense is going to perform with Michael Hawkins in this situation?
Yeah, I think it's maybe I don't know if it's confident because I'm not really sure of it. It's a tough environment, but having seen what he did at Auburn, I feel like I have some confidence. Like the guy gets it. I feel way more confident than him against Jackson Arnold, for example. Um, and I don't know. I think there's a little bit of confidence there with what he did there. I'm not sure. I don't know if it's confidence or maybe a little bit of hopium, but I think it's just this idea that this guy just has it. That if any true freshman is going to walk in, start an OU Texas game, first one ever, maybe it's this kid. So I don't know. it's less confidence and maybe more just like sometimes you got to have a little faith in some Sooner magic here, Maxwell.
All right. Well, you got Oklahoma covering. You got 14 and a
I think it's gonna be
half
close.
there, Bobby.
I think it's gonna be close, partner.
All right. Tell me why.
One, I think this game is going to be a bit of a slugfest. I think both defenses step up. This game always tends to be a bit closer than expected. It tends to be a bit grittier than expected. I think Oklahoma is going to be able to turn Texas over. The key to me is what can they do with those turnovers. We saw it against Tennessee. The defense put OU in a place where they could win that game, and they just immediately just screwed it up. They threw up all over their shoes the second anytime anything good happened. So we've seen what the worst case scenario is. What's the best case like? What's even like a middle ground, moderate case scenario of that? I don't know. I think that's enough to make this game closer than 14 and a half points.
Okay. I just picked Texas to win. I didn't mess with the spread. Rivalry games are always hard. I think Texas again, like I don't think I'm not saying their defense is bad. I'm just saying we don't really know truly what it is. I think OU, the experience on the coaching staff, the couple weeks to prepare, maybe this is where their offense can get something going. You would hope Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning, no matter who plays, I think it'll be Quinn, right? Let's just say it's Quinn for the sake of argument. You know, if I'm an OU fan, I'm like, okay, Ewers is prone to make a couple mistakes. He's prone to throw a couple picks. Like our defense is going to show up. Quinn Ewers is going to make a couple mistakes. This team, this environment, it's one of the best rivalries in sports. Like this is a game that can be close, and we just have to put some drives together, right? Offensive, like you just have to do it. I think if you're a Sooners fan, you're hanging your head on that. Um, yeah, you're hanging your head on that. So like that would be my argument that the Sooners cover if it happens, but I don't know. I just think Texas wins the game. Either way. So anyway, that's that. Super, super excited to watch that game, and we're excited to hear about it from your perspective. Obviously, you're going to be there, so it should be fun. All right, so let's move on to rapid fire picks and then get to the lock of the week and then get the hell out of here. Um, Ole Miss trying to keep their season afloat. They're going to face LSU, who's also trying to keep things afloat in the SEC. Tough game. I think a loss for either team would be devastating, but somebody has to lose. And I think that's LSU, to be honest. I think Ole Miss had a wake-up call losing to Kentucky. I like Ole Miss a little bit better offensively. LSU just doesn't seem right to me. Like their games just always just look harder than they have to be. I don't think this team is a top tier team in the SEC. I'm taking Ole Miss to win in Baton Rouge.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I'm not a big LSU fan right now. Ole Miss to me is iffy, as if they're like really one of those elite teams in the SEC. But I like them more than I like LSU right now. So give me the Rebels.
All right, let's go to Utah at Arizona State. This game is Friday night. Yeah, Friday night. Big 12 matchup. Utah in a weird place right now. Cam Rising status up in the air, but when is it not? I still like Utah though to get this win.
Yeah, I mean the Rising thing has been a mess, and maybe it's a fool's errand to believe that he'll be back. But they have a bye week. if they are healthy, if Rising is healthy, like I think they got this one. Plus, I have a bet with a friend on this one, and the loser takes a shot of Jepson's Malort. So I got to stick with Utah on this one.
All right. I love it. Okay. Cal at Pitt is the last Herbert Fire pick. Cal almost had Miami, man. That would have been a huge one for them. Pitt, undefeated in the ACC so far. Big matchup for that conference. Who you got?
I hate to pick against my beloved Cal Bears, but after an emotional week last week where you almost beat Miami, you kind of blow it. I gotta go with Pitt at home at the Heinz at the old Heinz Field. So I'm going with Pitt. Sadly,
Yeah, Pitt can take care of business, have a bye week, and keep things rolling here. Cal, I think that emotional loss, and then plus having to fly all the way to the East Coast to face a tough Pitt team who feels like they might have a shot in the ACC now. Not a good recipe for a win for Cal. I like the Panthers as well. Okay, lock of the week. Bobby and I both won, but Bobby getting another win, not great for me. I'm behind big here still. Bobby's got 8 points on the scoreboard. I've got 2. Bobby knocked it out of the park with Cal plus 10 against Miami. I just picked Penn State, which is not a game we didn't talk about Penn State UCLA, but I needed easy 1 point to grab to get close. So I took it. But this time I'm going to swing for 2 again, try to catch up, and take Penn State USC under 50.5. Both of these defenses are really good. 50.5 is not a huge number, so I'm a little bit worried about it because I feel like both teams could score in the 20s, and then I'd be a little bit worried about that. But I'm trusting that both of these teams who play really, really good defense. I think both teams are top 20 in the country in points allowed. I'll check that real quick. Yeah, Penn State is 8th, and USC is 28th. So they're both top 30 in the country in points allowed. So I think this is going to be a sloppy defensive game. USC really needs this. Penn State really needs this. I think you're going to be locked in on the defensive side of the ball. So I like the total to be under 50.5. That's my lock.
yeah. I never usually do totals, but I feel like switching it up a little bit. I'm gonna go Ohio State, Oregon under 53.5. I feel like people see these two brands, they think flash, they think offense. Dan Lanning's football, his teams are built on defense, and I feel like the really, really good Ohio State teams are also defensive minded. I think this one is a little bit more rough and tumble, low scoring than people expect. So under 53.5 is my play on Oregon State, Oregon. Or Ohio
All right.
State, Oregon.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. All right. Well, we'll see how it shakes out. We can't wait to come back and chat about it with you guys next week. Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody who watched. We appreciate it. We'll see you right back here on Multiplicity Media to break it all down next week. Until then, it's been Max, Bobby. We'll catch you next time. Peace.